one, action. We're live.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about our boy Kavanaugh.
Right.
Here we are, a couple lawyers talking about Kavanaugh. This is a guy who has, what, Yale Law School?
He's a Yalie.
Yeah, and he also is
Bush, and he was a Bush appointee, and he's a Yalie. Interesting.
And he comes from the same private, boys-only Catholic high school that our boy Gorsuch
Yep.
came from. So they both came from the same school. They're within 2 years of each other, and that opens some interesting triangulation with our girl Christine Blasey Ford, which we will talk about in the next video. But so we're going to have, and this is not an anti-Semitic or an anti-religious comment, we now have 6 Catholics. We will have 6 Catholics and 3 Jewish people on our Supreme Court. And the Jewish people make up about 3% of the population, or 4%, and the Catholic people make up somewhere between 10 and 20%.
So you know what that does? That reminds me of Catholics in action. It's the agency.
So without sounding like a bigot, I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable with an overrepresentation of either, but to have the 2 religious affiliations prominently displayed as the only Supreme Court we have, it's a little bit crazy. So
come on, Doc, let's go deeper than that, because the argument is who's really controlling who out of the Vatican. You want to go there, or let's talk about the facts here? Let's talk about the facts.
Let's talk about let's go down. Let's drill down on Kavanaugh, and then if you want to go out from there, it's all.
Right. And you made the great point, and I'll hand it off to you, man. You made the great point that the wife, Kavanaugh's wife, worked for W in Texas as an admin, then handled his election campaign. Then she was in the White House with Bush, and then Kavanaugh got appointed to the D.C. Court of Appeals. Why is the D.C. Court of Appeals so important?
Well, not only that, yeah, let's back up for a second, because he worked also for W and was an attorney, a staff attorney for President as W. And my first comment is, and this has to do with Trump.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Is why the hell are you appointing anybody that's a George W. Bush insider? Why would you do that on the face of it? Because we know that he is a neocon. We know that he's a pro-business, pro-government, executive expansion, pro-war, negative on civil rights, and he did some stuff apparently as an insider concerning the interrogations, although he ducked all of that.
Yeah, but wait a minute. There's even more. When he was working at the White House, the only person who mentioned this in the, what are we going to call that, a confirmation hearing, which we've discussed, which is a joke. I've watched 6 or 7 of Supreme Court confirmation hearings, and they drill down on these nominees heavily. What's your thinking about this issue, that issue, the other issue? It was minimal. So not too far astray here, but Leahy mentioned the issue about documents that were stolen that were handed to Kavanaugh when he was counsel in Bush's White House. Interesting. And those, I think, have been sealed and have not seen the light of day. So that is problematic, right? And then we have another component, right? But I don't want to go too far. There's a whole business about Vince Foster people have been talking about, and I didn't look at it. Yeah. But your point about, wait, about being a neocon. It's not so much the neocon, but the link I sent you this morning, and I'll post that link from Democracy Now! From September 5th, was fascinating, and we can talk about this, because it really shows that he, as a corporatist, is a globalist. So that really nets out to a New World Order guy, which is Bush and Bush HW, the New World Order.
Yeah, what you've got is a guy who is clearly in alignment with Citizens United. He's clearly in alignment with Scalia and the rest of them. And most of the time, or a majority of the time, I'm with the more conservative view of the expression of our Constitution as it relates to relationships. But if you give corporations all the rights of citizens, and you give them all of the exemptions of corporate limitations, right, you end up with corporations being able to manipulate our elections, being able to put millions of dollars into the elections.
Unlimited money. Yeah. And unlimited control and influence over the politicians without being held accountable as a normal person would be.
And then you go to 2008 and you look at how many of those banks and corporations and savings and loan and Freddie Mac and what's the other Mac? Fannie Mae. No one was held personally liable. So we've got billions of dollars dropping through the field, and there's nobody that made a personal mistake in any of that. So it's globalist neocons there, and is Kavanaugh better than?
Are those neocons? I don't think those are neocons.
Well, the neocon is a way of them politically saying that they are so-called mainstream Republicans that are globalist. I mean, we know that everybody who wrapped himself, this is the point of it, everybody who wrapped himself in the neocon version came up, wanted to hide globalist. They wanted to hide that they were globalists. They were New World Orderites. They were Project for the New American Century. I mean, George W. Bush is just a puppet stamp for Project for the New American Century. If you
I'd agree with that. Yep.
You look at what he did, everything he did was to benefit the Patriot Act, the Freedom Act, the interrogation stuff, the expanded interrogation.
Including 9/11 was to benefit the Patriot Act, which is to strip rights from people, expand rights to companies, do surveillance, create the Facebook, create all of these things, and then allow the government to buy that data and say, hey, we didn't take it, we just bought it the way anybody else could.
And destroy the Middle East, destroy Iraq, destroy Syria.
Well, that becomes the Israeli Project for the New American Century.
Yeah, well, it's all part of the same thing. And
the Greater Israel Project, All right, but let's not go too far astray. Let's focus on Kavanaugh.
The point of the matter is that when you focus down, Kavanaugh is perfectly in the center of this. And not only that, there is nothing he is going to do as a Supreme Court justice that is going to, in any sense, reverse the New World Order, the globalist position.
He's going to protect it and encourage it. And that's what this whole thing from the Democracy Now! Was. And, I don't want to, because this is kind of your segment. The last one was mine that you bogarted. So now I'll bogart for a second.
Right.
So what happened was, in this piece where he's talking about standing, and people who followed Webb and everybody else, when they go to sue and the case is dismissed because you lack standing, that component in that piece, and I listened to it earlier this morning, it's mid-afternoon now, so I didn't nail it, but it was shocking to me, where he's saying you have a class of like 1 million people that will be damaged, future damages. And the Kavanaugh says in the Circuit Court of Appeals, he says, well, we don't know specifically who's going to be damaged. So therefore, it's not certain enough. You don't have standing to bring this action, which is an outrage, right?
Yeah,
that's an outrage. But you know for certain that class, there will be certainly people in that class that will be damaged. But since you can't say it's Mary or Joe or John, Sally, nope, no standing. That's horseshit.
Yeah, so even if you have 10,000 people that are going to die, you can statistically show that.
Yeah.
You still have no standing because it's 10,000 out of 1 million, and and you can't identify which 10,000 they are, and that is corporatism at its finest. And of course, it is mercantile oligarchic stuff that takes us right into totalitarianism. The obvious next step is totalitarianism. So, people want to say, and I have people on my channel who do, they post this, and why are you criticizing Kavanaugh? He is going to follow the Constitution. Yeah, hell yeah, he's going to follow the Constitution when it serves, just as the liberals do when it serves his interest. And when it doesn't serve the globalist interest, he's going to wander off and protect the corporations. And once you do that, who owns the corporations? Well, it's
shareholders.
200, something like somewhere around 250 people provided half the money for the presidential election in the last two elections. 250 people.
Shareholders, right. And you're calling the corporation a person. They can contribute unlimited funds to political action committees, right? Not to the candidate directly.
Yeah, so they've gutted all of our election laws. They've totally gutted them with super PACs and allowing corporations to so we as private citizens are limited to $2,500, but the corporations can spend millions. How does that balance out?
Well, the court has held that money is speech.
Exactly. Yeah.
For more money, you can speak more. You can speak louder.
When I did a video not too long ago, I talked about our fundamental rights, and one of the fundamental rights that is not ever fully stated in the Constitution is that you have a right to economic vitality. And if what you do, if what the United States government and in effect corporations and the rest of that do is dissemble the economic vitality of the middle class, you don't have any freedom of speech because you can't buy it. You can't buy a platform on which to use it. So, and we see that the mainstream media right now has basically closed off the little people from speaking, period. And they're attempting to do it on YouTube and everywhere.
And access, right. So they're not even allowing the little people into the public square.
Even when we're only talking to 50,000 people or 5,000 people or 20,000 people, they still want to get rid of us because we're talking too much. And, this goes back to the very fundamental thing is that we're going to do no hate speech. Well, what if I hate Kavanaugh? Is that hate speech? Do I have a right to hate Kavanaugh?
It depends who you ask. It depends who you ask. If you ask Facebook or if you ask YouTube, I don't know. If you hate Kavanaugh, YouTube might like that.
And so I can't say that there's a conspiracy to put only Jews and Catholics on. Does that?
Maybe. I don't know. I never even thought of that. That's an interesting point you make. But look, and then I know you want to talk about what's her face in the next video.
All right, so let's.
I think as she applies to Kavanaugh, I think we are experiencing a psyop. We are being manipulated because Pop Goes the Weasel comes up at the last minute because the CIA, the Catholics in Action here, has gotten to these people. They want the New World Order, globalist court. And I don't think Trump really liked this guy up front. Now, on his face, this guy looks great. He looks like, he's a terrific face. He's got all the credentials. He's terrific.
Mr. Clayton.
But which way is he ruling on important issues? And this thing in democracy now is very disturbing. I'm going to put that link in under the video.
Yeah, so, on balance.
Only a 10-minute clip, but it's great.
On balance, is Kavanaugh better than nobody? I would say in the short term, yeah, he is. Can he be made to be?
I disagree, man. I'd launch him.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Here's the problem with it. If the Senate flips in 40 days or whatever it is,
right?
The Democrats, Schumer and Feinstein and Pelosi and the rest of these folks have, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg, have said the Constitution's an antiquated document and we should ignore it because it's no longer viable in our current progressive modality.
Who said that? Ginsburg said that?
Yeah, exactly.
How does that line up with defend and protect the Constitution? What am I missing?
It doesn't. What they're saying is that I have a right to thoughtfully supersede the Constitution and that the functional workings of it. See, the problem is they see the process of amending it or administratively working around it as intractable. And therefore, what you do then is you simply ignore it judicially, and then you can circumvent both of the other two branches of government by simply doing what you want to do. And so it is at its core most fundamentally antagonistic to us and our rights and to the stability of us as a law-abiding nation. We no longer have a foundational document. That's the point. And the problem with Kavanaugh, and it is a very real problem, the problem with Kavanaugh is that he is just like the liberals to the extent that he wants to gut or circumvent personal and private rights to the benefit of the globalist corporations. So we lose, it's either lose, Tweedledee or Tweedledum, lose or lose. Which do you like?
I'm remembering the little circle you did, right? And you explained it to me, and you should be able to do that on a graph on your computer, so we can see.
I've done a bigger picture of it, and I'll do it again because basically what happens is freedom is on this delicate place at the top of the ball, and if you go down the liberal side, you end up with all of the socialist stuff that works into communist totalitarianism. If you go on the capitalist side, you end up with free market, then you end up with mercantilism, then you end up with oligarchy and monopoly, and then you end up with totalitarianism. And guess what? You've fallen off the ball on either side.
And it goes either way. It drops to the same conclusion.
Doesn't matter. The results are the same. And if you look at it, and this again doesn't feel like it fits into the Kavanaugh deal. If you look at it,
but it does.
If you put the bankers in the middle of the circle and you look at where they pay all the way around the circle to get it to come down to totalitarianism. They don't care whether they're paying the corporations or they're paying the socialists to move it to communism. They don't, whatever we do to provide more money to get it to the bottom of the circle is how
more money and more control, to allow more control to the corporatists or more control to the communists. Either way, they're going to sit in their ivory tower, drink champagne and caviar while the other people have no firewood and food.
No matter how you end up with it, when you end up with the totalitarian bottom, you have 300 people or 3,000 people, pick whatever number you want, that are going to decide all of the actions of the world. And you can say, well, gee, we're over here on the capitalist side. Yeah, right. How did that work for you? If you allow the corporations to run the world, and they take you down until you have no rights at all, and you follow Google and Facebook and Twitter, and you put the CIA and the rest of it and tie them all in together, and you put all those pieces, you still have total control. I mean,
it's the same result, bottom line.
How much better off are you than communist China, where they're telling you if you make a statement that is contraire, that they will shut you off? You know, right. we are only
same thing, and the corporations shut you off, just like
we are only digital currency. Digital currency will do the same as communist China. Once you have digital currency, and I can say, "Hey, farmer,
soon,
farmer, I have you digitized, and I have all your assets digitized, and here's the deal: I'm turning the switch off. All your digital assets have just."
Right, or have no access to them. You can't access them. Right. You're done. You're out of the system.
So,
well, that's a comforting thought, isn't it? So communism and capitalism, boom. That's why I said that was a brilliant analysis. And I think these are the two what do we call it? Not the dichotomy. It is a dichotomy, but it's set up to be that way: black, white, liberal, conservative.
Yeah, if you think
communist, capitalist, and it's the same thing, all being structured by
the same
puppeteers.
If you think
international bankers
that you're on one side of the ball and therefore you're safe, I'm a socialist and therefore I'm safe because the oligarchy is not going to get me. If you think that you're on the capitalist side and the communists are not going to get you, and you've got these enemies, and you keep what happens, which is fascinating, is that we need to take you farther down away from freedom because the communists are after you, because the Arabs are after you.
Right.
Now we're going to take you to totalitarianism where it won't matter at all what kind of government.
We can protect you. We can protect you. Yeah.
It goes back to Benjamin Franklin's statement that when you trade off freedom for security, you get neither. And that's
exactly. See, this is the kind of great conversations that we have. But you wanted to talk about Kavanaugh, so
all right, so we're done talking about Kavanaugh. Let's go.
We didn't even hit Kavanaugh other than the general
I'm going to give you a minute and 29 seconds.
No, you're up, man. You do Kavanaugh. Go ahead.
I'm good with it. I'm good with him
Good.
because it looks to me he has been a proper henchman for the globalists. We saw that with George W. Bush.
Right.
We've seen that in his court rulings. We've seen that with the rest of it. We know what.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And corporations are only accountable, and they're only people when it serves their interest, not when it serves the public or we the people's interest. That's a fascinating perspective. Very clever, right? So I'll just tell you this, that part of the PSYOP is the people that questioned him, the Republicans, and we'll call them the independents and the constitutional-minded people, thinking he's going to be more conservative, without having a real look at his reasoning behind the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, property rights, and all of these interesting things that really didn't get discussed other than with, what do we want to call it, the most
the problem is
superficial.
We've got Republicans that want to talk about
They're hot button issues.
gun rights and a few other things.
Right.
With Democrats that want to talk about abortion.
Oh, we know that. But the normal people are saying, all right, well, he's okay. But now the PSYOP is to make sure everybody protects him, is make him the victim and introduce the pop goes the weasel. Here's this, what's her name, Bailey Ford. Now he's a victim. Now everybody should support him who was even questioning it. I don't know. I see it as
it's a win-win either way, because the globalists the globalists win no matter what. Because if he gets on the Supreme Court, the globalists win. If he gets dumped off of there, the globalists win. That's just the way it is, and so we lose either way.
I don't know how we got there, but we can leave it there for now.
All right, let's leave it there for now, and we'll move on to phase 3 of our daily discussion. All right.
Let me just say, hang on a second.
All right.
Please leave a comment and decide whether or not you like these short little nuggets of our little didactic dialogue, or if you would prefer the rambling mode. Love those comments. And of course, as Dr. Phrog likes to indicate, leave a thumbs up.
Thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell because it helps the algorithm. All right, we're going off. Bye now.
Bye for now.